Hello, good evening, everybody. Hello, everybody. Y'all, I am so excited to do this mug rug with you this evening. Hello, everybody. First, I just have to say a huge shout out to my moderators Diane57, Maureen, Vicky, Mimsy. Am I missing anybody? Thank y'all so much. I've been watching a lot of live streams in the evenings this past week. There's a lot of shenanigans going on in the night live chats. Thank y'all so much for keeping an eye on the chat so that I can focus on what we're doing and hopefully not make any mistakes. Y'all, tonight we're making the Lots of Hexis mug rug. There is a free pattern down in the description box. I want you to grab that and make this mug rug with me. Now, if you're watching on the replay, this is going to be a longer, chattier video. So feel free to skip around. You don't have to sit through the entire thing. But if you're here live, so glad you're hanging out with us this evening. I'm going to try to slow down and just enjoy hanging out with you this evening. I haven't even really prepped a lot because I'm going to be working out of a bag of scraps. I have not even opened up this bag. I've been patiently waiting. Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. Before we get started, just a reminder, Friday, if you like mosaics, if you like making mosaic type quilts, if you like painting on fabric, or if you like raw edge applique, don't forget Friday we're starting the hummingbird mosaic quilt. That should be so much fun. We're going to do that starting on Friday. And tonight we are doing a method. Y'all, there's probably 1,000 ways you could make this mug rug. I'm just going to show you the way that I'm approaching making this mug rug. And tonight we're going to be doing applique, turned applique with fusible interfacing. So maybe you've done that before. Maybe this is something that's totally new to you. One of the purposes of doing the mug rug videos, we're going to do one a month for the next year, is to try techniques that you may or may not have seen before. So turned applique with fusible interfacing. That's what we're doing. Miss Brenda, happy birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to pause for a second. Hopefully everybody who wants to come in and join us can have a chance to do that. Ooh, I saw Trinita was doing well. That's good. I'm so glad you're feeling better, Trinita. I'm going to switch you over to the cutting mat. Here is my sample. You'll recognize this from the thumbnail, right? It's in purples. My favorite color. Linda said this is a keeper for sure. Absolutely. I'm going to find a good place for this. But tonight I'm going to be working out of a bag of scraps. This is what we're making, y'all. Hello, everybody. Down in the description box, there's a 2-page PDF, okay? It tells you what you need to make one of these, and then it has your templates on the back. I have not done anything with this. Let me show you what else I have. Sorry, what else I have. I have some fusible interfacing. Now, let me just be really transparent with you. I like to keep it real with you. This is Pilon P44F. This is the interfacing. It's got the bumpy adhesive on one side and it's smooth on the other. It is super lightweight. This is the stuff I like to make my t-shirt quilts with because it's super light, right? It doesn't add a lot of weight to the quilts. For the purpose, the way that we're going to use it tonight, let me just be honest with you. This is not the strongest interfacing for turned edge applique. If you decide you like this technique and you want to invest in some fusible interfacing for doing applique like this, you might want to go a little bit stronger, like the 911, right? Pilon 911, I think, is a little bit stronger and a little bit more durable for turned edge applique. But y'all, I have bolts of this. And I'm one of those people who I use what I have versus trying to go out and buy new stuff. But we're going to make this work. if you have this, you can make it work. We're going to be super careful with it. So this is Pelon P44F. I also have a very thin piece of batting. This is Warm and Natural. Super thin batting. That's what I'm using this evening. Let me just set that off to the side for a second. And I have my bag of scraps. I have not opened this up yet. I think this was $2.50 or $3.50. I can't remember now. It's been about a month since I got it. But it was a really great find at a local antique shop. One of the vendors in there makes items to sell in her booth. And she must have a lot of scraps because she had a lot of grab bags. So that's where I got this. I'm hoping there's a piece big enough in here to do at least the base portion. I know I can find scraps in here that will do these smaller Hexis, but I'm going to need two that are a little bit bigger. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hazel, you're up late. It's 1:35 in the morning. All right, while we're chatting, I'm just going to start sorting through here and seeing what we've got. Ooh. I really kind of like the green check. Is that going to be big enough? It just will be big enough. That's a contender. Yes. I was really excited about getting this bag. That's kind of nice too. Let's put that off to the side though. Whenever I see bags like this, I always get them. Ooh, this will be perfect. This will do both the top and the back of the first Hexi. Let's put that aside. That's a winner. And then I need 1, 2, 3 more fabrics. Ooh, that's nice. Let's put that with it. I've been waiting and waiting to go through this. That kind of goes with it. Let's put that there. I've been patiently waiting to see what all is in here. I still have my bag of jewelry. I have not done that video yet. Y'all, I've been super busy. It has been so busy. I wanted to look at this green fabric. Let's pull that out. Ooh, does that go? Does that go with those? What do y'all think? Ooh, that's kind of nice. My goal is to kind of use this scrap bag to do a lot of our mug rugs with. I'm just kind of going to make a mess here, but I'm just quickly pulling out some of these fabrics. Ooh, what is that? Does that go? Oh my glory, 124 people. I could have gone all night without knowing that. I get really nervous. Ooh, okay, so what do y'all think? I kind of really like that green splash in there. All right, I think I have my fabrics. I'm going to stuff all these back in there. Wow, wow, look at that. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Glory, that was a deal. That was a good deal. That was a lucky find. Not the green. Try the teal. Ta-da, ta-da. Let me pull this back out. The teal, y'all like that better? I can see that bag is going to get me a lot of mug rugs. Let me start pressing some of this. Let me get my iron warming up. A little bit of this and that. Where is this place? I need to know. It is on Route 60. It's across from the Pottery Factory. If you know Williamsburg and Toano and Lightfoot area in Virginia, if you're on Route 60 and you see the Pottery Factory, it is close to that. It's an antique shop that used to be a gas station, and now it's a shop that a whole bunch of different vendors have rented spaces. And she has grab bags. One of the booths in there has grab bags. Let me give some of these fabrics a press. You know where that is? You'll be going, yes. It used to be a gas station. There's some really, really cool stuff in there. Actually, there's quite a few shops along 60. There's another one that I don't remember the name of it. I always forget the name of it. But there's a great big chair in the front yard. It's a house that they've turned into an antique shop. And there's a great big chair out front. Well, not only is it the house, but if you drive next to the house on the gravel road, there's a great big barn. The barn is full of stuff. And if you like reclaimed wood, you can get some really cool pieces there for a really good price, too. All right, so let's just give some of these a good quick press. Pressing, pressing, pressing. I feel so unprepared because usually I have all this pre-work done, but I wanted to open that bag with you and give you a peek of what's inside. I don't need to press this whole great big piece. We're only going to use that much of it. So let's cut it. And save this off to the side. Ooh, that's pretty. I already know, I can tell from the camera that the colors are not showing on the camera. That is actually like a peachy color. I don't think it's showing up on the camera the way it really looks in person. Y'all don't judge my pressing. I'm just trying to flatten these fabrics out a little bit quickly. I know we won't need this whole great big piece of this either. Yes, so what does your week look like? I have quite a few photos to sublimate in the morning. That's awesome. Not only that, I'm making 4 quilts that have 20 pictures in each one. 20 12.5 by 12.5 pictures. That's a lot. That's 80 pictures. Wow, there are some good pieces of fabric in here. That is gorgeous. It's got strings all over the place, though. That's all right. That's okay. We're just flattening out. And y'all said this teal color. Let's give this a press and we'll see. This almost feels like it was part of a piece of clothing. I'm okay with that though. It is pretty. All right, there we go. I feel a little bit better organized now. Okay. Ella, yes, I can print. My printer goes up to 13 by 19. Yeah, 13 by 19. Okay, are y'all ready to get started? Wanda says, I feel like I can smell the steam from the iron. Did I fog up the camera? All right, so let's set that aside. The first thing we're going to do. All right, so I have the template sheet here, right? I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to cut the big Hexi out. I'm not going to cut them individually, but I'm going to cut this big Hexi right on the line. Yes, I am. Cutting the Hexi, cutting the Hexi. Yeah, those prints are gorgeous. That was a heck of a find. I can't remember if it was $250 or $350. One of those two. Yee. Come on, Lisa, you could do it. All right, so there's our template. We can get rid of that. I'm going to set this Mugrug right off to the side as well. Okay, so decisions. All right, I changed my mind. We're going to go with the darker fabric for the very base. The darkest fabric. Yes, let's do that. Y'all, this is how I usually work. Kind of spur of the moment. Just willy-nilly picking stuff. This is the real me. All right. So this is actually folded right in half. Let's put the pretty sides together. Pretty sides together. Just like that. So what this is going to be is our biggest Hexi. It's going to be the top of our biggest Hexi and the back of our Mugrug. Okay? Two pieces, right sides together. Just flatten it out some. And I'm going to trim it so we're not working with the whole great big piece. Without wasting too much. There we go. So we have the back and the top. Ooh, Jenny Beyer quilt prints. Nice. This feels like it's wrinkled. Let me press that. I must have not pressed that part. We can't have the wrinkles in the back of the quilt. Or the Mugrug. There we go. All right, so right sides together, let's bring in our batting. And let's lay that down first. And then we've got both fabric pieces with the right sides together. And our Hexi template, and I'm just going to pin that right in place with my little birdie pin cushion. We're just pinning that so it doesn't move around, right? The cool thing is you can reuse this template over and over. So this very first piece, we're going to bring this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew right next to our paper template. But we're going to remember to leave a little good size opening on one of the sides. Okay, so I'm going to switch you over to the sewing machine, and that's the first thing we're going to do. We're creating the very base of the Mugrug, the foundation where we're building everything on top of it. So let's start about an inch away from the first little pivot point. And I'm using a straight stitch. I do have my open toe foot on so that hopefully you can see a little bit better. And I'm going to lower this stitch length to a 2.0 on my machine. So yeah, we're going to start there with a little back stitch. Now we're just sewing right along that paper template. All right, we started right there. So this is our last side. I'm going to just sew a little bit into this side, and we'll finish again with another back stitch. All right, that gives us the base of our Mugrug this evening. And I'm going to bring in my square ruler. And we're going to cut away all of this extra stuff. Miss Sheila, I want to thank you for sending me a reminder about my machine. I had beat you to it, but not because I wanted to. I was having issues yesterday with my presser foot. But thank you for sending me the reminder text to clean out my bobbin area. All right, y'all can barely just see it. You really just see the indentation of the sewing line, right? We're going to trim away all the extra, leaving a really small seam allowance on each side. I like a little bit of a smaller seam allowance. I don't want to cut my template. I would say I'm leaving about 1/8, but if that makes you nervous, you could leave like a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This part goes by pretty quickly. And this is the side with the opening, so I like to hand cut that and leave a little bit more fabric where my opening's going to be. Because I usually have messy openings. Careful not to cut into that stitching. All right, let's just see. Let's fold this back, and I'm going to trim away this extra batting right there as well. So there goes that. Now I'm going to try, I'm not usually very good at this. I'm going to try to press this before turning it to see if it doesn't make my opening a little bit neater. Aw, y'all are so welcome. Separate fabrics, there you go. I always forget to do this step, and hopefully it helps. We'll see. I usually struggle getting that opening nice and neat. We'll see how it goes. All right, so once you've trimmed away all your extra batting, we can turn this right side out. And I left a pretty good size opening, so the flipping is going to be nice and easy. And I'm just taking my fingers and running it right along that seam, poking out the corners of this hexie. Sounds like I'm saying sexy. I'm poking out the corners of this sexy. She is kind of sexy though, isn't she? All right, let's give her a good little finger press, and then let's turn in this opening. It helped on one side. Always have to fiddle faddle. Hold on a second, y'all. I'm just turning in those fabrics right at that opening. One side did really beautifully, and one side did not. There we go. I think that's good. Let's give this a press. Ooh, I have the steam on still. I don't think that's horrible. I think that's pretty good. Okay. So at this point, we're going to take this over to the sewing machine. We're going to do a straight stitch all the way around the outside edge. Okay, and then we're going to be ready to move on to the inside hexes. For this stitch, I'm going to bump up the stitch length quite a bit to like a 2.8. And I'm just going right close to the outside edge of this hexie. See how quick that goes? That's pretty quick. Now I feel like we're on to the fun stuff. Let me give these threads a quick trim. Okay, doke. So there is the base of our mug rug. Scooting, scooting. Now is the time where we're going to bring in that fusible interfacing. Now, you could do this raw edge applique. Absolutely. You would just trace your inner hexes with your fusible, right? Like heat and bond, light, wonder, under, steam a seam. You could absolutely do this raw edge applique if you wanted to. Tonight I'm going to do something a little different. All right, so I have my fusible interfacing. I'm going to put the bumpy side facing down right over top of this template. And I'm going to trace each one of these hexi shapes, the sexy shapes, right onto the interfacing. I'm trying to stay nice and straight. I tend to sew straighter than what I trace. So there's one. You can just see that. There's one. Then we're going to trace the next one. There's two, and now we've got this little baby one in the middle. Okay. Wow, I cut a really big piece. I did not need that much. Let me trim some of this apart and away, and then we're going to separate these three hexes. This will go in my scrap bucket. And then we're just going to separate the shapes, right? Three individual different size hexes. And at this point, we can get rid of our template. All right, I'm going to take a pause for a second and take a sip of tea. I know that some of you are sewing with me live tonight. So I'm just going to take a pause so that if you're sewing with me, you can catch up. What fabrics do I want to use? Okay, I want it to go really dark. And then light. Ooh, that's going to be pretty. Where's my biggest hexie out of these shapes? Here's my big one. I'm just going to start preparing these fabrics. I'm going to cut a fabric piece off of here. It is a little bit bigger than the shape we need. Try not to waste too much of this. All right, so that's going to be our big one. And then we're going to use this one after that. So this will be the middle size Hexi. Sometimes I really like using scraps because I can just cut willy-nilly and like it's okay. And then I'm going to go back. I was going to use the teal, but I really like this. So we're going to put the light right back in the center. And that fabric needs to be pressed again. All right, all of you guys are going back in the bag for next month. Ooh, I think that'll be really pretty. I'm kind of stalling for a second in case anybody's trying to keep up. Let's give these fabrics a good press again. Because they're pretty wrinkly being crammed in that bag. All right, so we have the big one. We have the middle one. And we have the little one. Let's get rid of some of this. We're going to save some of that. There we go. I usually have a huge mess on the floor to clean up after the live. Okie doke. All right, y'all. This is the fun part. At least I think this is the fun part. We're going to take the bumpy side of our interfacing. Remember I said it has a smooth side? We traced on the smooth side. And it has the bumpy side. The bumpy side is actually adhesive. We're going to put the bumpy side to the pretty side of our fabrics. This is the part where I always mess up, so I had to double check my notes because I always forget. The bumpy side to the pretty side of our fabrics. And I just like to double check before I bring it over to the sewing machine. Now we're going to bring all three of these over and sew all three at the same time. This time we're going to sew right on the line, but we're not going to leave an opening. We're sewing the entire line all the way around. For this, I'm going to use a smaller stitch length again. So I'm going to go back down to a 2.0. We're going to sew all three of these. Oh yeah, you can kind of see the line over here a little bit. All right, we started right there. We're just going to continue right past where we started. I like just to do a little back stitch. So that's the first one. Let's bring in this middle one. All right, we started right there. I'm just going to sew right past it. Do a little back stitch. And that's the middle one. And now we just have this little baby one. All right, we started right there and we're almost done. That went by pretty quick. Okay, so now we have some trimming to do. Just to let you know, I did not invent using the interfacing for applique. People have been doing that forever. But it is one of my favorite, for turned edge applique, it's one of my favorite techniques. All right, so we're just trimming all the extra. Again, I like to leave a small little seam allowance. I used a white thread, so I know probably it's hard for you to see. But I'm just being careful not to cut those stitch lines and just trim all the way around each one of them. Trimming, trimming, trimming. I do feel like these little Hexi Mugrugs go by really quick. I do feel like you could make quite a few of them in an afternoon. Trimming, trimming. One thing to keep in mind when using this fusible interfacing is the little dots are glue. So we don't want to introduce any heat to this. Not yet. Not yet. Ooh, I think these colors are going to be fantastic together. All right, so there are all my scraps. Those are tiny, tiny itty bitty pieces, so I'm just gonna get rid of those. So at this point, we have 3 inside hexes. Where's my little scissors? Here they are. With the interfacing still showing, right? Ooh, fussy cutting the middle would be awesome. All right. Now this is the part where if you use a little bit of a stronger interfacing, you might have a little bit of an easier time. Just in case you came in after we got started, I'm using a Pelon P44F. It is super lightweight. It really wasn't, in my thinking, it wasn't intended for this purpose, but I'm going to use it because that's what I have. I have bolts of it for my t-shirt quilts, and the thought of buying more stabilizer was just wasn't going to happen. But using a stronger interfacing for this probably would give you an easier time. I'm going to be very gentle with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate the fabric from the interfacing. See that? It looks like a little puffy pocket. We're going to separate those two. We're going to cut a small slit right in the middle of the interfacing. Now my slit is going to grow because once you cut this particular interfacing, it just wants to sort of rip. So you got to be careful with it. Small slit. And we're going to turn this hexie right side out. Just being careful not to rip that hole too much. And we're finger pressing these hexies at this point because remember, the little dots, that's glue. So we're just going to spread out the seams with our fingers. Very gently. Pokey poke. There we go. See that? I could go in and really poke out those corners a little bit more. So all of our edges are now turned. So this applique is not going to fray if you wash your project, which is nice. My favorite applique technique is raw edge applique. But doing turned applique using the interfacing is pretty simple. So there's the back side. See the opening? It did grow a little bit. And there's the front side. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Let me get the hardest one done. The smallest one is the hardest one for me. Ooh, S.L. Faust said you could slit the interfacing before sewing it. That's a good idea. Joyce said she's using the Pelon 911. Yes, I think that is a much better interfacing to use. This one, you just have to baby it and be extra, extra careful. It's perfect for a t-shirt quilt. But for this method, you just really have to be super gentle with it. It does the job, but you just got to be sensitive with it. All right, so there's my middle one. She's cute. Let me get this middle hexi. Turning, turning, turning. And poking, poking, poking. And then I want you to get your irons warming up. There we go. All right, so all three are turned right side out. I feel like I could mess with this one a little bit more, but I guess she's okay. Yeah, let me poke that corner out a little bit. Okay. All right. Let's warm up the iron one last time for this evening. I think we're done with all of that. And we're going to move the pressing board back over. There we go. Lisa asked, would SF101 work or would it be too thick? I personally haven't worked with that. I found the Pelon P44F pretty early on in my early t-shirt quilt making days. I went through a couple interfacings before I found this one. The SF101 was not one of those. Once I found the Pelon that I use, I just stuck with it. So I haven't used that one. I'm sorry. What about a teapot mug rug? Have y'all seen the teapot mug rug that I did? In the description box, there's a link to a playlist where all my mug rug videos are. You could scroll through. I have a teapot mug rug. It was like a year or two ago. Are you warmed up? All right. Now this is the part where we're actually going to be pressing and fusing these hexes to the base, the very first one that we started with, right? So we're going to start with the biggest one. And we're going to line up the little points right in the middle. And I'm just eyeballing it, y'all. There we go. I'm just going to finger press it down. And then we're going to press it. When we flipped our hexes right side out, we put the bumpy side on the back side now. So this is going to act like our basting or our glue or our fusible, and it's going to keep that hexie down. All right, so there's the first one. And we're bringing in the second one. We're going to line up those points. I'm going to just finger press it and then press it. I like to use a little steam. That poor hexie needs a little help. It's too late now. And now we're going to line up the center one. Ooh, I like that color combination. Does that look straight? It needs to come over a little bit. There we go. And we're pressing her. Mary, I do think the 911 is the same as the 911 FF. I could be wrong, but I believe it's the same. Now we're just going to give this one final press. But y'all, this is not permanent. We're going to bring this over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch down these 3 hexes. Now at this point, the options are pretty endless, right? With what kind of stitch you can secure these hexes down with. Let me bring my purple one in. My purple one, I did a blanket stitch. You see that? Isn't that cute? Sorry, I have strings all over the place. The blanket stitch. Super cute, right? And even on the back, when we stitch down our hexes, we're quilting the Mugrug at the same time. That's adorable, right? I thought on this one, we're either going to do a straight stitch or a zigzag stitch. Which one do y'all think? Straight stitch or zigzag stitch? You could use any of the stitches in your machine. You could even do this by hand if you wanted to. You could easily hand sew these down. Straight stitch, zigzag stitch. Hazel said straight stitch. Veronica said straight. Okay, we're going with the straight stitch. We're going to go right over to the sewing machine. The straight stitch is super fast too, so we're just going to go right in here. Now I am going to increase my stitch length. And this time I'm going to do a 3.0, a little bit of a longer straight stitch. I'm going to go close to the edge. Yeah, that's going to go by fast. All right, I'm just going to do a little back stitch and we're going to jump to the middle hexie. My middle hexie needs, she's a little off, but that's okay. All right, a little back stitch, and we're jumping right to that middle hexie. I think you can see the colors over here much better than you can over there. All right, a little back stitch. And she's done. We just got to cut some little jump stitches. Amanda said nothing says homemade like off center. Yes. All right, we're just going to cut these little jump stitches. Get rid of these threads. I like the longer stitch. That's all my jump stitches on that side. And all my jump stitches on that side. Let's give her a quick little press. There's strings everywhere. And there we go. The lots of Hexis Mugrug. Let me move this off to the side now. There she is. Now I do feel like she's a little wonkety, but it's okay. This one is much straighter. Nothing like working under pressure, right? But I still love her. I still love her. So there we go. Ooh, what if you connected them like that and made them a quilt? Ooh, there's an idea. Do a little zigzag right there and connect a whole bunch of these and make this into a quilt. That's a fabulous idea. Yes, but see how quick, I mean, I stop and I talk a lot during my videos. So I can tell you when I made this one, it went by really quick, and even getting it straight, right? Ooh, a table run. Ooh, a table runner. Yes. Wouldn't that be gorgeous? And you could do a scrappy too, would still be pretty, right? A whole bunch of different colored theme ones put together. Ooh, Amanda's going to make one as a mouse pad. Ooh, yeah. Look, it's the perfect size mouse pad. Ooh, it really is. Yeah, Danielle said you're going to put your cup on it anyway, right? See, you can't even tell. You can't tell that she's wonky. Actually, this one represents me more and my personality than this one does, even though that one's purple. Yes, there's batting. Is there batting in the biggest one? Yep. There's batting in the base of it, right? But not the three that you sew on top. Yeah, ta-da! Yes, this one is super fun, y'all. It really is. And if you haven't tried using interfacing for doing turned edge applique, give it a try. You might really like it. Again, raw edge applique would make this mug rug super quick too, and it would look just as pretty. Oh, you're so welcome. Hello, everybody. Hello, Miss Mary. Sherry says, I like your wacky personality. I'm so glad, Miss Sherry. I'm so glad. So there we go. I feel like we went through that pretty quick. This one, to be really honest, when I did the blanket stitch, that part took the longest. Not making the hexes, you know, and putting it together. The blanket stitch is a little bit more time consuming, right? Because it's a slower stitch. The straight stitch is super fast, but they both look really nice. So I feel like you could make these, like if you have a craft booth, if you do craft fairs, if you do the markets, farmer markets, if you have bazaars coming up where you sell your stuff, y'all could make a bunch of these and put them in your booth or add them to your inventory. Can you medium interfacing? Can you use medium interfacing? Shelly, I want to say yes. I used a very lightweight one and it tears very easily. So using a stronger one than what I used tonight would be better. Beverly, I'm excited about Friday. Yeah, these smaller projects are really great projects to practice different stitches with. Absolutely. Beverly said, love wonky. I'm so glad. I do too. Hazel, I'm glad you stayed up too. It was great to see you this afternoon. Go get some sleep. So yes, that's lots of Hexis. Okay, so disclaimer. I designed the Mugrug for next month. I did the pattern and everything. And then I said, you know what? I better make one of these before I commit to this Mugrug. And it is so super cute, y'all. It's a pair of 2 Mugrugs. And it is so much, work. It's super cute, but it's so much work. So now I'm having second thoughts about it, and I'm thinking we're going to do something different. So that's one of the reasons why I like to work on my stuff a little bit early. Because if I change my mind about it, I still have plenty of time to design a new one for next month. So I can't tell you exactly what we're doing because I don't know. Have you released the first hummingbird block? That's going to be on Thursday, Joyce. Keep an eye out on Thursday. You'll get that. You'll see the thumbnail come up on Thursday. Diane 57 said, how would you sew these together? I personally would use a zigzag stitch with a coordinating thread or a contrasting thread and just zigzag, 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 zigzag. That's how I would do it. You could hand sew them together. Marianne said, first live I've made. Well, yay, I'm so glad. So Studio. Oh, Tracy, you found the coffee cup. Yay. Hello, Miss Anitra. Ella, I think I'm going to change my mind. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Charlie said, Mitch likes the one made this evening. Yay! She's wonky. Okay, so I'm partial to purple, and this one is so much neater. But I'm kind of in love with the wonky one with the scraps. Ooh, Annie said you could use the herringbone stitch instead. Ooh, yes. See, I love it when y'all share ideas because I wouldn't have ever thought about that. I would just go with what I know. I hardly ever use a herringbone stitch, but that would be gorgeous. Good night, Miss Joyce. Anitra, I think that's a good idea because it is super cute. I don't want to show it just in case I modify it and go with the simpler version of it. Right now, it's just way too much. If I were to say, okay, this is a beginner friendly, this is intermediate, and this is advanced. When it comes to applique, this is above advanced. I need to simplify it a lot. Hello, Miss Marion. Amanda, I don't have any more of these that I could show you what that would look like. I wish I did, but I made the first one and then the one with you tonight, and these are all I've made. I wish I did because I would lay them out and show you. Hello, Miss Paula. Hey, Kim. I'm going to tell you, coming on live, I see a lot of y'all. I know y'all work during the day. It's so great to be able to catch up with you in the evening. A little bit of that, this and that says, oh, that's Jane. I was like, that name sounds familiar. That's Jane. If y'all haven't checked out Jane's channel, you might want to do that. A little bit of this and that. Yeah, the purple's my favorite. I would say this is beginner friendly. The mug rug for next month that I've started, that's not beginner friendly. Quick question for you. Why didn't you use a slash on the front of the base instead of trying to close a seam? It would be covered by the appliques anyway. I didn't even think about it. Would that work? That would work. I didn't even think about it. That's a wonderful idea. Yeah, so they're saying instead of leaving an opening on the side, just like we cut a slit in the interfacing with these, so the whole thing, that is brilliant. I didn't even think about it. Cut a slit and then turn it and then cover the slit with your first hexi. Thank you. If I make more, that's how I'm going to do it. Danielle, I'm super excited. I am so stoked about our sleepover and quote show visit. I've got the guest room all ready for you. I want to thank y'all for moderating this evening. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, close seams all around. Why did I not think of that? That's brilliant. That would be so much neater. Ooh, Sue said, I'm thinking a yellow hexi in the center and pinks go all around making a flower. That would be gorgeous. You know, we're halfway into February already. Spring will be knocking at our door before you know it. Wouldn't that be a gorgeous table runner? Make it look like flowers. Before we close for this evening, I just want to remind you, if you're on the creative crew and you make the Hexi mug rug, lots of Hexi's mug rug. We want to see pictures of it. Feel free to share not only this, but whatever you're working on over there on the Creative Crew. Zella, you are so right. I'm so glad to have a community of people who love to share their knowledge with everybody. So thank y'all so much for being willing to share. Yeah, super, super cute. I just want to thank y'all for hanging out with me. I'm going to switch this camera over. Take a sip of my tea. Kathy sent me a quilt to quilt for her not that long ago. And she sent me a box of tea. Y'all, this tea is so good. Peppermint green tea. If you haven't tried it, you should try it. It's delicious. Oh, and it feels good on the throat too. These lives, I do more talking during a live than I do all week long. Hazel, you've got green, yellow, already cut for the morning. Good night. Oh, it's so good, Anitra. It's peppermint green tea. So yeah, I still have my bag of jewelry. I know tomorrow night, we're going to be hanging out with Patreon tomorrow night. So no live tomorrow night for the jewelry. I had almost thought about staying up late tonight and doing it. I don't know. What do y'all think? I really want to see what's in there. But I just don't know when I'm going to have time to do it any other time. Ella, you haven't found a tea you like yet. Oh, have you tried Earl Grey? Have you tried a spearmint tea? This peppermint green tea is pretty fabulous. Linda says, what is the finished size of the big Hexi? The finished size. Let's measure it. All right, so it's on my mat. The sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. In the middle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, ma'am, 9 inches from the middle points. Do you like all flavors of tea? No. I'm not a huge fan of chamomile. I wish I was. Harlan really likes chamomile. I just don't like chamomile tea, and that's probably one of the few teas that I don't like. Ooh, Marion said, I'm going to be making a paper doll quilt with clothing. Ah. Is there a way you can share pictures, Marion? I would love to see that. Trinita said, what about Friday afternoon's YouTube live? The only thing is, Miss Trinita, is during the day is my work day, and I have 4 quilts I am deep in the middle of. So I feel like all my time during the day needs to be focused on these commissions, except for when I go live. So I don't know. I do love the raspberry tea. Ooh, Chinese black tea. I'm going to have to try that. I have not tried that one. Cranberry tea is good. Lisa, in this box that Kathy sent me, there's 4 different flavors, and it was a peppermint green tea, and there's an orange spice. I haven't tried it yet. Ooh, Carol said, try Earl Grey with lavender. Really? Ooh. I might have to try that. Okay, y'all. I hope you enjoy this mug rug. I hope you make lots of them. Lots of Hexis. Sexies. Lots of the sexy Hexis. I hope you have a fantastic week. I am really excited to hang out with you Friday. We're going to be meeting at Lady Grey is good too. I almost bought some of that today. We're going to be hanging out at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. I bought my black fabric today for the base of my hummingbird mosaic. I'm going to be working with scraps, so I'm going to have baskets all over the place. Do you make your tea in a cup or do you use a teapot? It depends. If I'm in a hurry, I make it in a cup. If I'm not in a hurry, then I do have a tea kettle that sits on the stove. And, but yeah, most of the time I'm like rushing in a hurry to go do something. So usually it's just in a cup. I do like some loose teas too. And I have a little set where you can use the loose leaf teas. All right, y'all. I cannot wait to see you Friday. I didn't see anybody say that they wanted to hang out late tonight to see the jewelry, so I'm just going to hold off on that and patiently wait. But yeah, it was so great to see you tonight. I hope you have a fantastic week. If you're making the hummingbird, keep an eye out Thursday. That's when the thumbnail comes out, and you can grab week number 1 pieces. It's going to be fun. You can paint it, or you can do fabric like I'm going to do. Ooh, jasmine tea. Y'all going to make me want to go make another cup of tea. At least this one doesn't have any caffeine tonight. All right, y'all. I've had a lot of fun hanging out with you this evening. Maybe we should do lives more often in the evening. Something to ponder. I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you Friday. Ella says, are they going on your Etsy? I'm not sure which one you're asking me about, Ella. This pattern is free. The hummingbird mosaic is free. I'm not creating an SVG for that quilt. I've thought about it. We're not doing SVGs for the hummingbird mosaic. So we're going to keep that one all free and cut everything by hand. Gotcha. Yep, we're cutting it all by hand. If you have a scan and cut, though, you could scan the piece and create your own pieces. Just saying. All right, everybody, I love you. I'll see you Friday. If you're on Patreon, we're doing Small Business Rally tomorrow evening. See you then, everybody. Bye.